Alright, take 3. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet as possible, and hopefully I won't get interrupted. The only time and place I have to do this right now is on my lunch work break. So anyways, this is my project SKX, and here are some parts I hope to be able to quickly go over and explain to you what I'm doing. But before I do, let me show you my source of inspiration here, what I'm trying to do. And we'll start over on the left side with the TAG Heuer right here. This is the watch that I used to own. I bought this myself back in '95 in Hong Kong. It was the first what I would consider luxury sports brand that I purchased on my own, and I was really happy and kind of proud of that. And it was a great watch. I love the white dial with the black bezel, and it's just very clean. And this watch was solid. Quartz movement, but it was very reliable, and this thing overall, the build just took beating. It survived me falling off the top of a fence, trying to scale it with some friends. We were hopping over to a playground and kind of tipsy anyways, and I fell off of kind of close to the top, I think, and it survived that and me crossing a road and getting hit by a truck, and I ended up in a hospital for about a week, but this thing kept on going. The sapphire never got scratched or damaged. The bezel did. It did suffer from a bit of let me straighten this out. It did suffer a bit of scratch from wear and tear, but overall it held up, and that's alright. It was my beater watch. I didn't even consider watches to be beaters or not back then. It's just the watch that I wore, and I had this for almost over 10 years. And somewhere after I moved into a new house, I was working on the garage, epoxying the floor on one time and painting the walls another time. Just really early on at the end of 2007, I had misplaced and basically lost the watch, and it still bums me out to this day. And I was able to look online and find some of these watches, but there's not many for up on the secondhand market, and the very few that I have found, they're rather beat up and more than I'd want, and I don't feel like restoring it and all that. And yeah, not for the price that they're going for, and you know, it's kind of bums me out. I can't find a good example of this watch anymore, but that is that. And now over here on the right side, I was looking around for a white dial diver watch, and I came across this Grand Seiko, and I was like, wow, what's this? It's pretty cool. And you know, it looks fairly close to, you know, in some ways to my old watch, but you know, it's got more of an oyster style bracelet. It's got a ceramic bezel, I believe, and it's a little bit more bold in the bezel, and the applied indices, and you know, everything that a nice Grand Seiko has. But this is actually a quartz movement, a very expensive one, and it's only 3 hands too. And you'll notice there's also no date, but that actually, as opposed to the tag, but that's fine. You know, a date or not doesn't matter, and I kind of prefer it without it. It's a cleaner, just bare basics kind of watch. But this Grand Seiko, it's what is the model? It is SBGX115. And there's a black version of this, but I like this white one. Yeah, this thing costs, I think it came out in 2015, and there's only 2 variants as far as I know, the black and this white version. And they think they were probably at least around 4,000 new, and if you can find one on the used market, and there are a couple that look like in pretty good condition, but they are fetching at least as much, sometimes over 5,000. And honestly, for as nice as they say that this quartz movement is, it's supposed to last sealed, and it's going to last you, barring battery changes, of course, 50 years without a service. And it should be super accurate, and it ticks perfectly, just like the Seiko Tuna, the quartz one that they have. It's It's a super precise movement. It's always precisely on the tick marks. Yeah, it's a nice watch, but for over $4 or $5, it's too much. I did consider it once, but I think it was too much to even consider. I would have to sell too much of my collection. So after pondering a bit how, can I work something out, I think, why don't I think about modding a Seiko, a much less expensive one, and customize it to my liking, combining both this TAG Heuer look and this Grand Seiko. And I always did like the SKX, style. It's got the crown at the 4, so I'm going to do basically a hybrid of all of these into my own custom watch with a white dial. And so here we go. You can kind of imagine, just kind of get a good look at the components here. Notice the Grand Seiko hands, the way they apply indices, the chapter ring on the outside here, and of course the black bezel, and then the way this looks like here. This has Mercedes hand. This is really kind of close to Rolex style, but basically they kind of reversed these. These would normally be round circles, and then these would be rectangular. And this is kind of a Jubilee style. So yeah, so this is what I'm going for, and putting it all into this SKX 007. And I'll try and show you what I have here. First I'm going to upgrade, well, not first, but I'm upgrading the movement to an NH36. And so I prefer hacking and manual winding capabilities. Although this is supposed to be solid as is, but this would be better. And I think it has a better power reserve. And I've heard stories that some people say that even though it's, you do the shake and you wear it, sometimes this may inexplicably just stop running even while on the wrist. Don't know if that's true, but I've heard at least, I believe, 2 stories like that. And what I have here is, this is a dial from a vintage quartz Seiko. It's quite nice, actually, this radiant blue, but I used it just for the Seiko emblem that was at the near the 12. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry. Which I already carefully pushed out with some dental tools from behind, and basically got it onto here. This is a custom white dial. It's actually got a slight sheen to it, but this is the best I could find with the applied indices, as you see here. And to get this onto this dial, I had to, I couldn't use the prongs that were on the back of this tiny emblem. It was just too tiny, and there's no way I could drill a hole that precisely and that tight to fit this onto. So I had to clip off or cut off the pegs, make sure it's smooth on the back, and then I just adhered it directly onto this dial. So I just wanted something with an emblem on it. It looked a little too sterile without it, and wanted to represent Seiko still on the dial. And what I'm going to do is replace the hands. This is probably going to be the next step, is putting these Grand Seiko hands. You can see they match this. And yeah, this is going to go on here, or actually onto this dial with this movement. So I'm going to have to, the next step is getting this onto here, and then, well, first making sure this is zeroed out at 12, and then I can put the, when the date clicks over, then it's right at midnight. And even though it doesn't have a date, it's just good practice if you do have a date window, just to do that before you put in new hands, and make sure they're aligned so they pass and tick at 12, right? So then this will go on there, and then this will line up carefully on there, and I'll have a press to get that on. And eventually, I do have, the only thing that's missing here is the sign crown. incredibly hard to get. It's at least a 4 weeks wait. I do have a temporary jumbo crown that's supposedly coming in soon. It's been about almost 2 weeks. They said it should be this week. Hopefully it didn't get lost in the mail coming from the Philippines. But I do have two stems that are trimmed, that are meant to fit this movement. They're trimmed already, so they should work perfectly with the new aftermarket crown, signed, or the jumbo. I just got the jumbo just because the signed one was going to take a while, and I wanted to at least get something in sooner to keep this project going. But that is the only hold up. But I'll work on this on the side and cover it up and keep it nice. And by the way, you cannot use just the stock stem and crown to go with this movement. The sizing of it is just thicker, or is it thinner? Either way, it doesn't work, and you can't remove the crown from it. It's all one piece, so that's why you have to get a separate crown and, of course, a matching stem to work with this movement. And ideally, you should actually switch the day wheel, because the alignment, because this is meant to be at 3, and if you're going to do 4, you got to get the day wheel that is offset so that it can read right, aligned with the date at 4, or yeah, like this basically. You can't see, it's kind of covered, but anyways, I could swap this into here, but since I'm not going to see the date anyways, as you can see, it won't even matter. And I have a loomed ceramic bezel insert, which is, I figure I might as well upgrade this, and so I'm going away from this is actually considered a Pelagos style, Tudor Pelagos style, I suppose. I mean, it's very much like Rolex too, but yeah, it's going to glow green, just like the rest of it. It has loom, and it's a black insert, and I think this will look pretty sharp once it's on this with that dial. That's one of the last things I'm going to deal with. And I do have a coinage bezel insert, no, not bezel insert, bezel, from Crystal Times, which is where I got this new domed crystal, sapphire crystal, that is, also for this watch. And it's not the biggest dome, it's just enough to see, which is good. I don't want it to be too bulbous. And it has a blue AR coating. Should be on both sides. So that's going to go in here to upgrade. And this is also from Crystal Times. It's just the coinage bezel. Let's see if you can see that. I just like this more than the stock look. It's just grippier, and it matches, actually will match the way the crowns are textured too. It's got that more fine kind of grip, if you can call it that. And lastly, let's see if I can open this up. The chapter ring. In the pictures, are basically the chapter ring, if you can call it that. The outer chapter is white, and the ring here, for sure, there's an actual piece, but it kind of comes up on the sides a bit at an angle, and those are white too, on the white model, of course. And I could have done that, but I really like the insert to be, the chapter ring to be like metallic. Like, this is actually a brushed aluminum insert. It's got the markings too, so I think it just adds looks nice from the outside looking in. Looks like there's more metal in the watch, and I think it's a nice accent inside here. Once you against the white dial, you can kind of imagine all this together. Later on, yeah, I think that'll look good. I had actually bought one from, this is actually Yoboki's from Hong Kong, and they got some really cool aftermarket parts for Seikos, of course. You guys modding should probably know that by now. And but I had gotten one from Dagaz, DAGAZ. They didn't say what it was, but it came high polished, and apparently that's all that came in. And I don't know, doesn't look right. I think it looks cheap. It really looked like chrome plated plastic. It was so shiny and black, and it just wouldn't have gotten the same right effect that I was going for. And yeah, that's basically it. So anyways, I tried removing, seeing if I could brush it out with my Dremel, but I kind of knew it would take out the markings from that polished one, and it did. But it did look better even without the markings and just brushed finish. But I need the markings because, I don't know, it's going to be, I won't have any minutes or even seconds to see on this new dial if I don't have a chapter ring that's got markings. A little too clean also if it doesn't have that. And that should be it. So basically the dial and the movement, all this is going to change in the chapter ring and the bezel and all that. And what else is there? And then I was thinking of changing the case back to an exhibition one, just because this one, I like the Tsunami, but it still has the 7S26 movement written on it, which is not going to be in here anymore. And if I got the one from, I believe, Dagaz as well, that has a open, like this where the Tsunami is open, or a little bit larger, you could at least see the movement that it's a NH36. Right. It says it on here somewhere around by the rotor, of course, usually. But I don't know. It's not a big deal. I suppose it's fine that it doesn't say NH36, and I prefer the solid case back with the Tsunami design on this particular watch. And a lot of times this will probably be on a NATO too, so it's going to be covered up anyways. At best, maybe I can scratch it out and engrave a new one. I wouldn't bother. And I actually got this specifically on the Jubilee bracelet because I like it on a Jubilee. They say it's kind of, loose and kind of jingly, whatever, but that's why it's comfortable. And I'm going for kind of an old school look. This kind of has a Jubilee-ish design, fat on the side and fine, 3 fine links in the center. But like this, maybe there could be a good chance I may also just get an upgraded bracelet in the oyster style. Probably a super 3D one from Strapco, their Miltap one. Really solid links. This doesn't bother me that it's stamped. It's really, actually, to be honest, this rarely bothers me. It's not like it ever breaks. I don't wear my watches that hard, and it should be fine. But it would be solid end links with the strap code, and these will be much more solid feeling. And it'll give it a more, utilitarian look too with the oyster style. So we'll see. That's maybe the other upgrades I might add to this down the line. But anyways, it's getting long. Just wanted to get this out of the way while I could. So this is my project box. These are all the parts so far, minus the 2 crowns, or the 1 crown at least, that I need for the movement and the stem. And I think that's it. Again, maybe I'll change the bracelet later. And that should be good. I can't wait to get this done. But the next thing is getting this onto here with the hands, and then eventually the crown and the stem onto here to mount into this watch. But that can wait. I can at least set these guys up with the hands and the movement, put it in the case or whatever carefully and set it aside. Then get into this, take out the movement, and then pop off the bezel. I don't even have to do anything with it because I got a new set here. And then pop out the crystal and the chapter ring, and then put in the new chapter ring, and the movement, and the new crystal, and then the new bezel, and then the new bezel ring into here. You know, everything is connected, and it really comes down to the dial first. This has to be aligned really well, and then I can align the chapter ring, and then I can align the bezel insert. So it's all one. You know, it starts there. I have no reference if I start on the outside and work in, right? And here's my inspiration. My old watch, which I miss, but I'm gonna make something new that's gonna honor it. And this bad boy this Grand Seiko, I guess it's Seiko Grand Seiko. So quartz movement also, but this is too damn expensive for me to afford. So these two merge together with an orgy with the SKX, and something new will pop out of this. All right, thanks.